You ever get a letter so absurd you think it's a prank? That's how this started. I came home from work, exhausted, only to find a notice duct taped to my front door. Parking on your driveway violates aesthetic guidelines. What? I own my driveway. But Karen, the self-appointed HOA queen, had decided my truck was too blue and too industrial for the neighborhood vibe. I laughed it off until I got a second notice, then a third, then a fine, $500, for parking in my own driveway. Turns out Karen had rallied the HOA board, which she basically was, and passed a new bylaw while half the neighborhood was on vacation. All vehicles had to be parked in the garage to preserve visual harmony. My garage was a workshop. My truck didn't fit. I tried explaining that to her calmly, but she just smirked and said, "Well, maybe you should have thought of that before moving here." When I refused to pay the fine, things escalated fast. She filed a lien on my property. That's right. This woman tried to take my house over a parking spot. I was furious, but I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I researched. Because if Karen wanted to play legal games, I was going to beat her with her own rulebook. I started digging into public zoning laws, easements, and municipal boundaries. And that's when I discovered something wild. Karen's house, the one she bragged about endlessly, sat right on the edge of a public transit corridor. The city had zoned that strip for potential transportation infrastructure years ago. It was inactive, but it existed. And according to city law, anyone could petition for a community benefit project along that path if it served public utility. You see where this is going? I filed a petition with the city. My proposal? A bus stop, right in front of Karen's pristine lawn. I argued that the neighborhood lacked proper public transit access, especially for seniors and students. I even collected signatures from local residents, many of whom Karen had alienated with her endless fines and rules. The city approved the project in 6 weeks, and then the work crews arrived. Karen's horror when they started digging on her curb? Delicious. She came running out in a bathrobe, screaming, "You can't do this. This is a private community." The city inspector calmly showed her the approved permits. She turned redder than her roses. "This is harassment," she shrieked. "You're targeting me." I shrugged and said, "No, Karen. I'm just improving the neighborhood. Isn't that what you always say?" Within a week, a bright blue public bus sign stood tall in her yard. Then came the bench, then the trash can, then my personal favorite, the shade structure. And the buses? They rolled in every 30 minutes, early, loud, filled with high school kids and retirees asking if they could use her bathroom. She tried to fight it, filed complaints, threatened lawsuits, but the city had spoken. And besides, I was technically just following her own logic. Rules are rules. You don't like how things are? Maybe you should have thought of that before buying here. The neighborhood, they loved it. Kids had a new way to get to school. Parents saved on gas. Seniors stopped relying on their adult kids for rides. Karen, however, became a prisoner in her own home. Oh, but I wasn't done. Remember how she fined me for aesthetic violations? I used the same bylaw she created and filed a complaint about her lawn ornaments, the gnome family she cherished. Then I added a clause to the neighborhood rules. All residents must allow access to public service agents at designated transit zones, meaning bus drivers could use her driveway to turn around. She screamed. She cried. She called a lawyer, but it was too late. The final straw? The city installed a security camera on her tree to ensure bus stop safety. Right outside her bedroom window, she had no say, no vote, no appeal. And suddenly she understood what it felt like to have your property rights trampled by someone pretending to enforce community values. Karen resigned from the HOA quietly. The board reformed with actual democratic votes. The fines were dropped. The lien on my house disappeared. And as a final gesture, the city named the stop Karen Corner. No joke, it's on the map. Every time I drive by and see her peeking through the blinds as another city bus unloads a group of noisy middle schoolers, I smile. What she did to me wasn't personal. Not at first, but her thirst for control made it personal. So I beat her at her own game, by knowing the rules better than she did. She wanted obedience. I gave her public transportation. She wanted silence. I gave her squeaky brakes, beeping doors, and 6 a.m. commuters with headphones and coffee cups. This story isn't just about revenge. It's about standing up to people who weaponize bureaucracy It's about knowing your rights, doing your homework, and pushing back when someone decides they get to be the king or queen of your block. And yeah, it's about turning a petty power trip into a daily civic inconvenience. Now I park my truck anywhere I like, in the driveway, on the curb, even next to the bus bench, and no one says a word, because sometimes the best way to deal with a Karen is to invite the whole city to her front yard.